Hello again, everyone. It's Dr. Wood, and I want to talk to you a little bit about where in the world do you even find your research? Like, where do you start at? Where do you go from? How do you find the actual articles that you're going to be using to inform your research paper, right? I will tell you very frequently, the first thing I start out with is a simple Google search, right? If you're covering something you're not really familiar with, if you don't know a lot about it, just try Googling it, see what you can come up with, right? As I mentioned, I'm going to try to use mostly my research experience as a starting off point, so that way you can at least kind of go from there in terms of how you might go about doing your own research. So let's say we want to go ahead and do a search for eastern coral snake envenomations, right? Oh, actually, that was for the anti-venom. Let's do envenomations. So right off the bat, we can already see we're getting some pretty reputable sources here, right? So again, looking at things like information coming from the NCBI, right? So this is a pretty good website where you can find a lot of articles. You'll find a lot of this will link up to PubMed, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But you can find a lot of good information here in terms of things like epidemiology, things like the pathophysiology, etc. These are good jumping off points, right? And allow you to dig a little bit deeper. Again, it's always a good idea if you find a good overall overview sort of source to go down to their references to see what they're pulling from in terms of primary literature, right? Be careful what you're searching for here because you may find varying levels of evidence depending on what you're looking for. So say, for instance, I say, do vaccines cause autism, right? We know this is going to be pretty rife with all sorts of information. So for instance, starting off with, our second link here is the CDC. I would consider the CDC to be pretty reputable. You may have some differing opinions depending on how you feel about the government, etc. But I find the CDC to be pretty reputable. And so you can find good information there. However, you never know when you go down. You may find information that may be less applicable, maybe less valid in terms of their statistical rigor, etc. Obviously, if you find like a Facebook page, I probably wouldn't take that to be the holy gospel in terms of really anything, unless you're looking for like cute dog pics or something like that. But Google is a good starting off point in terms of finding some of this initial literature. Now, I will say Uptodate is a pretty good resource as well, especially when you're just starting out looking into a topic. So I'm going to go ahead and go here to Uptodate. Now you can get to it from the library website. In fact, I'll go ahead and show you that from kind of the beginning here. Usually I just Google Nova HPD library. And I'll kind of go from there. First website here. Will sometimes come up with the login information. That's totally fine. You want to go ahead and log into here. And this is kind of a good jumping off point for anywhere you want to go to, whether you want to find the full text finder where you can find textbooks and actual journals and things like that. I typically will start with the menu and go to databases, right? Databases, this is how you can get to Access Medicine, Access Pharmacy, etc. I'll go to U, and so that way we can go to Uptodate to start off with. Now, depending on the topic, you may find that Uptodate has a lot of articles about something. You may have only one or two articles, right? So, for instance, hypertension, you can find diagnosis, you can find pathophysiology, you can find an article on the treatment in children, elderly, etc. For something like a coral snake envenomation, you may find there's only a few different articles that may be applicable, right? So evaluation and management of coral snake bites, okay? Now, one thing I want you to note with any of these up-to-date articles is who is actually writing them, who are the authors. Typically, these are going to be subject matter experts, right? So Stephen Seifert, I believe, is the past president of AACT, which is the American Academy of Clinical Toxicology, kind of a bigwig, right? Also, notice here as well, he works out in New Mexico. Well, New Mexico doesn't really have a whole lot of coral snakes they deal with, right? In fact, the most venomous ones are the eastern coral snakes, and they basically just live here in Florida. So sometimes you have to take everything with a grain of salt, right? And again, what they're doing with Uptodate is they're pulling together a lot of disparate information, similar to what you're going to be doing for your literature evaluations. So it's a good jumping off point. Always, always, always go and check out what their references are. You usually go down to the bottom here and get to what their references are. And again, by clicking on those, that'll take you to Uptodate. To PubMed, and you can get to the full articles from there. Okay, just note that. Also, keep in mind with Uptodate, one caveat is you need to be careful in terms of what they are citing to be evidence-based medicine versus what is going to be personal opinion or expert opinion. Basically, what that means is if there's a guideline to back it up, or a textbook, or there's big research. Big papers that show, hey, I think this is the best treatment for X, Y, or Z. That's called evidence-based medicine, right? If it's just something where we don't really have a good answer and we're like, well, I'm not really sure how to do this, but at our institution, this is what we do. That's expert opinion, right? So be able to kind of differentiate between the two, because you don't want to say, well, this is obviously the first line treatment for X, when that's not really the case. It's just expert opinion that that's what they do at their particular institution. So for instance, this guy working out in New Mexico, what he may see in a coral snake envenomation may be very different than what we see in Florida. Again, that's a very kind of niche example, but you can potentially apply this to other disciplines as well. So Uptodate, very good resource, especially when you're just starting out, getting more information about a topic. Okay, from there, as I mentioned, the NOVA HPD library is very, very good. And in fact, if you can stay affiliated with NOVA, even after you graduate for the library access, it can be super, super handy in terms of access to all sorts of things. As I mentioned, a lot of textbooks, a lot of different databases. The next thing I want to show you, though, is going to be PubMed. This is the main place where you're going to be finding most of your primary sources and where you're going to be finding access to the actual articles themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and hit P here for PubMed. I'm going to go down to the bottom here. You'll see that PubMed Central is where we want to go, right? From here, you can do your searches for basically whatever you're looking for. So as an example, let's say I want to look up Eastern coral snake envenomations. And you're probably not going to link directly to a nice review article right off the bat. You're going to find basically everything that has to do with the topic that you typed in there, right? And so here we have our search. We're looking at this, and obviously I spelled, I guess they don't like envenomations. It's like envenomation. But regardless, you can find here several different articles that are pertaining to what you're looking at, right? So let's say we want to dig a little bit deeper. Let's say we want to look at a particular article regarding eastern coral snake envenomations. I'll just pick one at random. I don't know, maybe this one right here. So this one's a review of eastern coral snake exposures managed by the Florida Poison Centers from 1998 to 2010. Seems like a pretty good article if you ask me. I don't know. I just taking a look at the abstract. Seems like some pretty top-notch minds behind this one. All joking aside, you're going to find here that from this page you'll get the abstract. And of course, you don't want to be an abstract clinician. You don't want to be someone that just makes a determination on how to manage a patient just based off the abstract. You got to dig deeper, right? You got to go to the primary source here. One other thing I will note about this page is nice is you'll find similar articles over here on the right. And so you can start to dig a little bit deeper into other articles that may have something to pertain to. This is where you get into the rabbit hole, so to speak, where you'll start off with one article, you'll then branch off into another article here and similar, and then kind of go down several different layers until you're like, oh, wait a second, why am I looking up this article that is tangentially related, not really what I'm looking at? It's very easy to fall down that hole. So you're going to have to do the inception kick to bring yourself back up to where you're actually getting something pertinent to your topic there. But once you find an article you're interested in, you're going to find full text links over here, and typically the first one you find is going to be good for getting to the actual full article itself. Every page might be a little bit different depending on where it's coming from, but typically you'll find a link to a full PDF article. And so again, you can click right here, say I want to download the PDF, and boom, here we go. We got the actual full article in its entirety, and now I can actually dig down deeper into this and determine what am I looking for, what kind of information can I glean from this, what are the stats, etc. And so this is where you want to save this, have it available, because again, it's going to go into your reference list. You want to be able to pull back from this when you need it, and you want to go digging through PubMed to find it all over again. Okay. So PubMed is going to be the primary source for the majority of your peer-reviewed journals and things like that you're going to be looking for. Okay. Other than that, what if you can't find the article you're looking for? Well, we have resources here, right? So again, I cannot underestimate the benefit that a librarian can provide for you. And so, for instance, if you look here, following this link, you'll see that there's different kind of site guides depending on your discipline. We'll click on physician's assistant here, and you can see here we have a whole person, Pam Beagle. I've never talked to her. I'm sure she's a very nice lady based on this picture. But she can help you out, right? So if you have an article and you're like, man, I can't find a full access to it, I can't get the PDF of it, contact her. They can probably help you out in getting access. Usually libraries like this will have funds that are available to secure articles if the school does not have access to it. And so they can get you a copy of the article generally within a few days or so, which is very, very handy. So those are a lot of your primary sources. This is not exhaustive by any means. However, it's a good starting point, I think, and we can go from there. If you have any questions about, man, how do I get access to this? Where do I find this article? I'm having a hard time getting this or that. please let me know, right? Go ahead and reach out early. Say, hey, I got this article, but I'm not sure where to find it at. Where do I go to from here? Reach out. We can probably help you out from that standpoint. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks, and bye.